much for buying our pigeon anti-roosting spikes. My name's David Jones and I'm the inventor of this pigeon anti-roosting spike. The spikes are simply glued onto any pipe, windowsill or ledge or wherever pigeons sit. This dense pattern of protruding spikes simply stops them landing without hurting them. If you look up above me, here you'll see we've got two shops. One of the shops has had the sign in the window ledge protected with the spikes and there's no pigeons. The other shop hasn't had the spikes installed yet, and as you can see there's pigeons that are using the ledges. What we'll do now is we'll put the spikes on the ledge. I'm now going to stick the spikes along the ledge right the way to the end and the windowsill with some silicone on the bottom of the spike. I'm just going to glue that onto the ledge so the spikes are overlapping. Press that down and you'll notice I'm spiking the front ledge and the back ledge. I'm just going to work right the way along the ledge now and the window. Done is we've gone along the whole sign right across the top of the shop. We've done the fire alarm, the windowsill, and we're even doing the top of the sign here. Just going to put the last piece in place. And that's the whole shop now protected. What will probably now happen is the same pigeons will attempt to come back to go onto their roosting ledges, but obviously the spikes are there as a barrier and they won't be able to land. We've now finished spiking the whole of the Curry sign, and as you can see you've got Currys and Superdrug are fully spiked, no pigeons, and the pigeons have now moved across to Peacocks. And that's the ledge. Hopefully we'll get the work there. We're going to knock on their door and ask them if they want it spiking. Pigeons are very much like that. They'll move along wherever the spikes aren't installed. They'll just move along one. Move along to the next site. What we're going to do now for the next few minutes, I'm just actually going to show you in detail how to install the spikes. First thing to notice, if you're doing work and you've got to use a ladder, it's very important you have a second person to foot the ladder. Foot the ladder means just stand on the bottom of the ladder just to make sure it doesn't slip. Also, if there was an accident or you needed help passing things up, a second person can help you. First things first, we'll just have a look at the stuff you're going to need. We've got a roll of pigeon spikes here. Key features there, as you can probably see along the bottom, we've got little star-shaped fixing holes. We're going to put a strip of glue along the bottom, and then when you press that down on the ledge, the glue will ooze up through the little holes. We've got a tube of glue here. If you've never used one of these caulking guns before, I'll just show you. The only thing to really notice here is that you've got a thumb release. So I'm going to take this old tube out, I just press my thumb on that, I pull the lever back, and then the old one, sometimes it's a little bit awkward. And you see we're fiddling around with that, my thumb on that, take out the old tube. I've now got a new fresh tube there. First thing to do is I'm just going to cut the tip off there. I'm now going to cut the top off that. And that then just screws on there. And that's now ready to go back in the caulking gun. I put the snout in first, push that in. Now that then clips in there. Now there's the trigger. I can just pull the trigger and that will go in. That's now ready to use. As I pull that trigger more, the glue will come out of the end. Just a couple of the other things you may well need. Obviously, before we stick the spikes onto the window ledges or the pipes, we have to clean off the old drop-ins. Could be a bit dirty. What I usually do is just throw on an old top to stop my shirt getting dirty, put on a pair of gloves. Also, there's the big issue of whether you can catch diseases from the dust from the pigeon drop-ins. Well, it is reported that it is possible. Pigeons, there can be some diseases associated with pigeons, but there's no proven scientific evidence that they actually do pass on anything. But as with any work where you're working with dust, you obviously don't want to breathe in any dust. So what I normally do is I hose down or wash down the drop-ins so that it doesn't become dusty anymore. Other people, they'll wear a dust mask. You can pick up these from any hardware store and it will just stop you breathing in any dust. But as I'll show you in a minute, what I simply do is just damp down the surface first of all so that there is no dust. Here we're going to spike this window ledge here, along here. First thing to do, of course, is just to make sure that the ledge is clean and free of drop-ins. Could be a little bit dusty up here, so I'm just going to damp that down. And of course you need a hose anyway to wash it off, or you can use a bucket of water or a watering can to water it down. And now there's no dust coming up at all. I just want to make sure that it's completely free of the pigeon drop-ins. Ideally, you'd go off for a cup of tea now and let that ledge dry. Let that ledge be fully dry before you stick the spikes. If it is wet, sometimes the glue won't take. If you want to speed up the process, you can use some kitchen towel. Just to dry that ledge off. Helps speed up the process. First thing we need to do is just put the spikes on there without any glue, just to make sure it's all measured up nicely. We're going to start at the right hand side there. That butts up against the pipe work. Then the next piece will go on. And so on, right the way along the ledge. You can develop your own technique. This is the technique that I use. Now when we come to stick these on, what I normally do is have it so that the spike is just level with the edge of the ledge, which means that these pins are overhanging slightly. So as the pigeons are coming into land, this first spike fends the pigeons off. This spike would still work just as well if you moved it back. Another point here, that this ledge is only 4 to 6 inches wide, so one row of spikes is perfectly fine there. In fact, if you measure the width of that ledge, anything up to 8 inches, one row of spikes will do. If it's more than 8 inches, maybe more than 9 inches, 10, 11 inches, and you can get your fist in behind the spike, then I would say you need to put a second row on. But here it's 4 to 6 inches, one row is absolutely fine. Also, you'll notice here there's a piece of pipe work. Now that needs to be spiked as well. Here we look and we can see that that piece of spike is far too long. But if you look along the bottom, there's little snap-off grooves every 1 inch. So what I'm going to do is just put that on there. I can see that that's where I need to snap it off. And I'm just going to put that between my fingers, bend it backwards and forwards, and that snaps off. And now that is the perfect length for that piece of pipe. So I'll put the piece on the pipe work first of all. We take the caulking gun, we just squeeze the trigger gently, and then you can see the glue coming out of the end. And I'm just going to put that like a big tube of toothpaste, to squeeze the toothpaste right along the bottom. To release the pressure, I just click my thumb on there. Now that will press down onto the pipe. And then you'll notice as I press down here, you can just see oozing up through the holes the little spikes of glue. And that will just help lock it into position. Now that's absolutely perfect like that. I'll now take my next piece of spike, once again, Just going to squeeze the glue along the bottom. And I'm just going to press that down, remembering to keep the base of the spike just near the edge of the lip. I just go along there, every one, and just press that down. And there you can see already, that's fastened that. That's an excellent glue. Will almost start curing within less than 10 minutes. Be fully cured overnight. And then I'm just going to go along the ledge, putting them all along until the whole ledge has been done. Remembering any little pieces of pipe, any of the little tiny bits of ledge I come across, I'm going to spike. Here, we've got quite a wide ledge. You can see I've already cleaned that. Once you finish the cleaning, there's no need to wear your gloves. You don't need to wear your gloves after you finish the cleaning. The issue is do you need 1 or 2 rows to fill that ledge? And that's about 8 inches. That's about as wide as 1 row will protect. What you could do is if this was just what I would call a daytime observation post, just a ledge where pigeons occasionally land, I would do is just move one row of spikes just back slightly. So it was only just overlapping, the spikes were only just overlapping the front edge, and there wasn't much of a gap. You can't get your fist in behind. And in that situation, just 1 row of spikes will do. However, if this was an overnight roosting site or a nesting site, pigeons would be very, very determined to get onto this ledge. So in that situation, if it was an overnight roosting site, what I would do is pull the base to the front leading edge. You'll then notice there's plenty of room for me to get a fist in behind. A pigeon could scrabble into that gap behind. What I would then do is I would insert a 2nd row of spikes in behind just for peace of mind. So when it's an 8-inch ledge, it's a bit of a dilemma, but if it is an overnight roosting site, for peace of mind, I would put on 2 rows of spike. Obviously now there's nowhere for the pigeon to go. Here we've got a shed roof, which is quite a big flat area, and I'll show you in detail how I would deal with this situation. First thing I would do here is put my first piece on. I would stick that down level with the edge of the roof like that. My next piece I would go along doing the edge. Then as a rough gap, you can leave a gap of about 2.5 inches from the tip of the spike. A pigeon's not going to go in there. So just as a rough guide, I'd put my fist like that, and then I'd put my next row down. And I want to leave a gap here of about 2.5 inches. So I can only just get my fist in. And then you would need to carry going along. However wide the ledge was, you'd have to keep going, leaving a 2.5 inch gap between each row until you'd covered the whole area that needed protecting. And obviously I would go along as well this way until the whole length and the width had been protected. Just one thing I forgot there. Sometimes it's actually just the pigeon droppings coming down the fascia of the building onto the ground below that's the problem. In that situation, you could actually get away with just putting the spikes on the leading edge. It still means you're going to have pigeons further up the roof, but at least by spiking the leading edge, you're not going to have any drop-ins coming down the fascia of the building or onto the floor below. Another issue I just want to touch on. Often why pigeons are on a ledge is because their nesting site is very close by. Here, the pigeons have been landing on this ledge here and going into the cavity behind. That's where their nest was. The mistake an awful lot of people make is that they put a spike onto the ledge like that, thinking that the spike will be able to block the pigeons from getting into their hole behind. Now that isn't always true. Pigeons can actually force their way, because if their nest is behind there, they may be able to scrabble and force their way past the spikes into the cavity behind. Of course, because the spikes are there on that ledge, they won't be able to use that ledge anymore. But please, it's important to notice that this spikes will not stop the pigeons getting into a cavity behind. What you need to do there, before you spike the ledge, is to block this cavity with some mesh. Again, before you block that cavity with some mesh, it's important to make sure that there are no pigeons trapped in there. It's best to wait till the pigeons have flown before you block it off and then put the spike on. If you do come across any pigeons that are trapped in the cavity, there are organisations that can help you get them removed. If you go to our website, or also if you look at our information sheet that we've sent you with the goods, you'll see on there there's an organisation called PICAS, P-I-C-A-S, PICAS, and they will help you. They've got relocation officers that can help you rehouse those pigeons. But if you do come across any pigeons in the cavities, it's important that you do contact them for some advice before you block off the hole. Next situation I've come across here, we've got the top of a post that needs spiking. It's an unusual pyramid shape, and obviously it's going to make it quite awkward to glue the spikes on. What we need to do here is we're just going to put a piece on. We're going to measure it. Here we can see that we only need 1, 2, 3 sections. I'm just going to snap that like that. Put some glue along the bottom. And then I can just glue that section straight onto the wood there. With the glue fixing holes, you can actually screw or nail that down. If it is a wooden surface, you could screw or nail that if you wanted to. I always prefer to use the glue, it's excellent. And all we'll do now is we'll go along to the next triangle, just 3 sections, snap that off, put some glue on the bottom, and then I can just glue that piece on there. And what I would do there, I'd just go around, put 2 more pieces on, and then you've got the top of that post is protected. Here we've got a very narrow ledge, it's less than 4 inches. We go to put the spike on and we're actually prevented because the back spike touches the wood at the back. All we need to do there is, because it's quite a flexible wire, is we just bend that upwards slightly. We just go along, or you could go along with some tin snips if you wanted and just cut the back wire off, but I just bend that up slightly. And now of course that will fit nicely even on the narrowest ledge. Here we've got an unusual situation. Here you can see the pigeon droppings. The pigeons are landing on this handrail and staining it. But obviously it's going to be a little bit of an eyesore putting the spikes on there permanently. What I would recommend to the customer in this situation is that you use a cable tie to hold it in place, or you actually just pop a screw in either end through the little holes and screw it on. I would leave that on there for a couple of weeks or even just a week. The pigeons then will not be able to land on there, they'll move elsewhere, and then you can simply undo the screw or cut the cable tie, and then you can remove the spikes and put them back into storage. If at a later date the pigeons start using the banister again, the handrail, you can simply put the spikes back on again. So the spikes aren't necessarily have to be a permanent feature. If it's an area that you don't visibly want to see the spikes there all the time, you could simply put them on there for a short term until the pigeons find a new site to go to. Here we've had a problem with pigeons in the guttering. I've just put on some little of our gutter clips, and that just pushes on the rim of the gutter, and that's locked into place and obviously stops the pigeons going into the guttering. If you need to clean the guttering out, of course it could just be popped off, taken out, cleaned out, and then back on again. You need 2 clips per piece of gutter. You simply take the clip, just push that in there, and it just pops on, just snaps on. And the other side, just going to put that inside the clip at the top, press that down, and that's now locked on. And here you can see, you just then push the clip over the rim of the gutter, and that locks on place. Hello there, I just want to finish up with a couple of items. Firstly, also as well as watching this CD, please read through the installation guide that came with your order. If you've got any questions at all, please email us. We'd love to answer your questions, and if you've got any photographs you want to send to us, we can look at them and talk to you, and we'll phone you back, and we'll do whatever we can to help you with the installation of the spikes. Last thing is, just before you actually go to install the spikes, just do a quick risk assessment just to make sure that you can fit them safely. Make sure you won't hurt yourself or you're not going to hurt anyone else. Make sure you've got someone to help you. If you feel that you look at the job and you think, I just can't do this myself, then why not pay somebody, a local handy person, to do it for you? Just pay them, you know, a little small amount and they'll come along and install them for you. If you feel you can't find anyone, you don't want to install them yourself and you don't think it's safe, then just return them to us. We'll always give you a full refund, no questions asked. It's better safe than sorry. And finally, thank you very much for buying the spikes from us.